Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast, live and direct on all your favorite channels, from Facebook to LinkedIn to Twitter and YouTube. Today, I'm joined by a great friend of mine and a phenomenal leader and engineer, Chris Cochran, who's a security engineer by day, producer, and host of the Top 50 podcast, Hacker Valley Studio by night. Chris is a wonderful man, and today we're going to be speaking a little bit about his background, how he got into cybersecurity engineering, but also we're going to touch on a little things related to leadership, gratitude, and what are the traits of successful leaders, especially in times such as this. How can you lead your life to success? I'm incredibly excited to talk to Chris because he's just a great personality, and if you've ever tuned in to Hacker Valley Studio, you'll get a sense of just how funny Chris is. With that said, let me go ahead and bring Chris on the show. Chris, what's good, buddy?
What's going on, Tim? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. Let's have you talk a little bit more about a big move you just recently made. You're in Texas now, aren't you?
Oh, goodness. I'm in Texas, man. It's crazy out here. Way different than the Bay. I actually don't have any furniture in the house right now. I'm sitting here waiting for gas people to come, people turn on the internet. Well, we got internet, thank goodness.
Good, man. Before we dive deep on what we're going to be talking about today, I want to show love to the amazing people tuning in from all over the world. If you are listening right now to Chris and I, please let us know where you're watching and tuning in from so we can show you some love and, play with you a little bit in the comments.
Let's do it.
So, Chris, I want you to share a little bit more about, your background, man, because you are, I remember when the first time I met you, it was to be on Hacker Valley podcast. And, ever since we met, we've been friends. And it was when you were living in the Bay. And also working with Netflix, but you've had quite a career in the area of cybersecurity. But you have a really interesting background how you got into cybersecurity, as well as more about how you've just been able to be successful to this point. And I would love for you to share that with us.
Yeah, originally I wanted to build Terminators, man. I wanted Terminators to come around. No, I'm just kidding. Half kidding. So I really got into technology around the Terminator 2 time frame. I wanted to build robots, and then I just kind of pivoted into computers. When I was young, I would take computers apart, see what the components are, see how they work, take them apart, put them back together. And it wasn't until high school, there was a program that I missed the cutoff because I had switched schools in the middle of my 10th grade year. And there was a program where people could get their certification in networking. I was like, oh, man, how do I get into this computer thing? And my friend was like, oh, just go get a book. So I took my mom's money that she gave me for school clothes, and I went and bought a computer book. It was like a $75 book, and I read it like a novel. And I started picking stuff up, and I was asking my friends questions. They're like, wow, you're picking this stuff up pretty quick. And then fast forward a little bit, I decided to go into the United States Marine Corps. And when I decided to go to the Marine Corps, I did pretty well on the ASVAB, which is the test you take to figure out which jobs you can select from. And I did pretty well. So I was able to have my pick of the litter, and I chose intelligence. I was like, I'm a pretty intelligent guy. So I'm going to go ahead and pick intelligence. I had no idea what it was all about. And so I'm going through training and stuff like that. So I'm asking my drill instructors, what do I do in Intel? And they're like, I don't know. So I finally get to the National Security Agency, where I learned about intelligence, tradecraft, and things like that. And I get into this niche of digital networks intelligence. So really focused on computers and networking. And so from there, I went to United States Cyber Command, doing all source analysis, which ultimately became threat intelligence from a cyber perspective today. And so since then, I've just pivoted from organizations. I had my own company at one point, and it's kind of like a storybook, but it's been a crazy ride.
At what moment did you have to delete the dream that you will not be building Terminators? Because that's an awesome dream.
I think I'm going to do it. I think I'll do it. I'm going to build some Terminators. I think it's going to happen.
I still think that's the future of actually, you going and building Terminators, because robots are big right now. Robotics is an emerging field. So I want to show love to Lelaine, who's tuning in from Fort Worth, Texas. Nan Dini, who's tuning in from India. Hey, Mrs. Menon, what's up? Steve, who is tuning in from Madison, Wisconsin. Steve, thank you so much for listening and watching us today. And Horace, who's tuning in from Green, Orlando, Florida, and Faith, who's tuning in from Kenya. And as she says, with love. I love that. So we have a global audience right now with us. Chris, I want you to, because I think your background is so fascinating. If you have just as interesting of a background as Chris and how he got into tech, please share with us in the comments, and we'll definitely show you some love. Now I would love for you to share a little bit more about, how you've been able to transition throughout your career.
Yeah.
And all of these different places, because I think something that people struggle with when it comes to being able to lead a successful life is managing career transitions. So what's been the secret sauce for you, Chris?
I say the secret sauce is rely on your strengths, because there's going to be a time where you pivot into something where there's a lot of unknowns. Like pivoting from the government to the commercial sector, there was a lot of unknowns. Going all the way to the Bay, there was a lot of unknowns. Coming to Texas, a lot of unknowns. And so there's going to be a learning curve no matter what you do, no matter what role you go into. Maybe you got promoted, maybe you switched industries altogether, but there's going to be a learning curve. But rely on your superpower, your strengths. And that's what's going to help you get to that next level. It's going to I wouldn't say buy you time, because there's going to be some degree of learning no matter what you're doing, but it's going to give you the ability to create impact right away while you're learning everything else. Yeah.
How did you develop your strengths, man?
Just by practice. Deliberate practice is one of the monikers that I kind of live by. Is if you're going to do something well, you have to practice it. So everything from interviewing to going into a new organization and providing impact to talking to mentees, to your direct reports, to leadership. It's just practice, constant practice, and just getting better, finding those little tools that help you along the way, and then you'll be cooking with grease.
Yeah, no, and I think it definitely applies to communication. Oh my God, that's a practice, right? Being able to eloquently and concisely communicate what's in your mind to the people that you're leading or the people on your team.
Yep, absolutely. Communication is huge, and it's one of my favorite facets of life, to be honest. And that's why I do a podcast. Yeah, being able to communicate clearly is a science. And it's a science and an art, actually. So one of the exercises that I used to take people through is, let's say you're writing up a memo to somebody and you're trying to explain something. Yeah. And let's say the original draft is 500 words. So is there fat on that memo? Probably. Let's cut it down to 250. So you got to take that memo from 500 words to 250 words. Okay, cool. It's getting better. All right. Now let's take it from 250 words to 100 words. Now every single word has intention behind it, because you can't have any fluff. You have to be able to communicate really clearly what you're trying to get across. And so that's something I like to share with people. And that's something I've used to cultivate not only my writing ability, but my speaking as well.
Man, that's so powerful. That's a great tip. I love that exercise. Please do that exercise if you want to be an effective communicator. I've actually never heard of that exercise before, so I'm actually going to keep that at the top of my mind. So I want to ask you, how does gratitude play a role in your success, man? Because I've met you before, and you're like filled with gratitude. Your energy is so just much. Like always in a state of meditation. So how have you kind of applied that throughout the course of your career, man?
I'll tell you what, gratitude, a lot of people say it, but I really believe it. Gratitude is one of the best things that you can have in your life on a daily basis at the macro and the micro level. So gratitude, I'll tell you this, Brene Brown, Brene Brown, right?
Yeah, we know Brene Brown. Yeah. Shout out to Brene.
Yeah. Hey, you got to be on our shows, Brene. We got to make this happen. I keep saying it. Happen. I'm waiting for the call. But
if only she would notice us, man.
One of the things she talks about is that intense joy is usually followed by fear. Because if you have something that you're joyful for, a lot of the times you're afraid of losing it. Like, for instance, she made the example of her kids, and same thing here. Like, I look at my kids, like when they're sleeping, I'm like, wow, I'm so proud to be a dad. But then immediately after, you have this fear that seeps in. Like, what if something happened to my kid? Wow. And that immediately robs you of joy, right? But she says, in order to combat that fear, you have to have gratitude, because gratitude is thankfulness, sure, and that's how people usually define it. But for me, gratitude is thankfulness combined with like mindfulness and combined with awareness. So then like you are living in that moment of joy. So if you're living in that moment of joy, you're not thinking about what could happen. You're not thinking about things that happened before. You're thinking about this moment right now. And so gratitude is really being aware and thankful for everything that you have in your life right now. Even though you might be in a bad scenario, like this move to Texas was terrible. It was a rough move.
Yeah.
Like, everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong during this move. But the whole time I was happy. I was happy because number one, I'm still employed. Number two, I have an amazing podcast. It's doing really well. Number three, my family's healthy and happy. It's like, so what more could you ask for? And so that, I think that helps in so many different scenarios.
Man, I love that. So gratitude for you is mindfulness mixed with, what was the other part?
Being thankful.
Being thankful. That's actually a powerful mixture. And I've actually never even heard of it like that. Mindfulness and thankfulness makes up gratitude. And I think, for me, man, there's so much happening right now. We continue to build Guy through a potential recession. And gratitude is just me being thankful enough that I can create, right. and I think often we forget to count our blessings in that sense of how are you kind of recognizing the opportunities that you have available to you, even though, there's so much negativity that you can't control.
Yep. Yeah, so much, man. That's one thing that you kind of have to focus on as well. It's like things are going to go wrong. There are so many things that could happen in the world. I mean, there's just so many variables to life. Why start stressing about something that you can't control? Just live in the moment as much as you can. And sure, it's easier said than done because there could be some things that are impending that could be really damaging to someone's life. Yeah. But really fight that urge to be afraid and really focus on the here and now, and you'll be much happier for it.
I love it, man. I love it. So shout out to Belinda, who says, love the communication tip and gratitude piece. Both are incredibly very insightful. Thank you so much, Belinda. We appreciate you. Shout out to my boy, Mr. Yoshida from Kapolei, Hawaii. Man, I need to visit you, man. That is the best place to be right now in Hawaii, if you think about it. Shout out to also Steve, who loves the same idea that you shared on how to drive communication down to its most essential points. I think he's also going to be stealing that memo tactic that you shared as well, man. I want to ask you, for you, you balance a lot, man. You are one of the top cybersecurity engineers in the world. You have an amazing family. For you, where does gratitude come in or other traits come in when it comes to balancing your family life as well as your work life?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It comes from gratitude, both in the work perspective and for family perspective. So one thing, I don't think I've ever told anyone this, and definitely not in a public arena like this, but every time I pick up one of my daughters, whether they fell asleep on the couch or maybe I just want to pick them up and hold them for a moment, but in that moment, I get super, super present, like super present. Like I feel the weight of their body in my arms, the warmth of their body. I just feel everything, and I just like take it in for a moment because it was, I think it was Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. I don't remember verbatim, but basically the gist of it is don't rush this. Like when you kiss your kids goodnight, don't rush it, because at that time kids could be taken really quickly due to disease, things like that. And so that's something I try to apply to my life as well. Is don't I'm too busy to give you a hug. I'm too busy to spend time with you. Like I try to be as present as possible with them. I'm not perfect at it, not at all, because I get busy with interviews and podcasts and things like that. But every time I do that, it's like almost like an instinct now. Every time I pick them up, it's like I just go present in that moment. And so that helps me with the balance between work and my personal life, because whatever I'm doing, I try to be as present as possible in that moment, because I'll be more impactful. I'll be more impactful as a father. I'll be more impactful as an employee. I'll be more impactful as an entrepreneur. And I'm able to get more done because of that focus. When you have context switching and that residual context that's left in your mind, you start to have diminishing returns. And so if you can be laser focused on whatever you're doing at that time, you're going to do better work, and it's going to be more satisfactory as well.
Man, that's so powerful, man. That's so powerful. And because I believe the same exact thing. What have been some books that you've, read or you came across that have helped you develop that laser-like focus?
Whew. Oh, there's so many books. One of my favorite books is Tools of Titans, though. That's Tim Ferriss. It's a collection of different interviews he had with different powerful people. That's one of my favorite books. And I'll give you one tip out of there. And when it comes to focus, so for me, traditional education wasn't my bag. Like I appreciated it for its like it forced me to gruel or just grind through a 4-year degree, right? I had to get it finished, get it done, and finish it over with. But for me, the way I like to learn is I like to take a modular approach. And so in the book, he has this
bite-sized.
Yeah, exactly. Bite-sized. There you go. He has this concept of a mini MBA. So instead of going to some big school where you have to learn this entire, structured traditional education, you can actually turn things into bite-sized. Maybe you find the best one-day webinar you can. And you take that one-day webinar. And maybe there's a 1-week boot camp that it's like, oh, wow, if you take this boot camp, it's going to just get you next level. Take that 1-week boot camp. Oh, I heard about this book. This book saves a lot of time when it comes to doing business. Maybe you read the book. Maybe you read the book 4 or 5 times, write notes. Maybe you make a podcast based on the book, something like that. I like being modular like that because then I can be really focused and targeted on what I learn and then how do I apply it afterwards? Because when you go to school, it's like, all right, you got to go through, this is year 1, this is year 2. It's like, but how do you actually apply it? How do you apply it to the problems that you're working with? You might have homework and papers and stuff, but how are you going to apply it to yourself? And that's how I stay focused.
Man, dude, you are sharing some practical tips, man. I really hope that people are taking note because these are powerful. Shout out to Walter, who just tuning in and chiming in from Phoenix, Arizona. Steve is saying gratefully and unabashedly stealing it. So he's taking all kinds of note. But Linda's saying, Steve, I'm doing the exact same thing starting today as well. And shout out to Mr. Muhammad, who is tuning in from Seattle, who's saying he's appreciating all of the game that you are sharing. I want to ask you, Chris, because we talk a lot about leadership and you talked a lot about it in your, Hacker Valley podcast. What are a few of the traits that you believe make up a successful leader, man?
A successful leader is as selfless as possible. Because you run into leaders that are full with ego, and ego from the standpoint, you can have a little ego because that sometimes that's what makes you who you are and makes you great. Like you look at Michael Jordan. Did Michael Jordan have an ego? Absolutely. And he was one of the best or the best basketball player of all time, right?
Yeah.
But when you have ego and it takes away from other people is when you run into problems. So when you have selflessness as a leader, if you're more focused on developing them as people and developing them and whatever their life trajectory is, that makes you a better leader almost automatically. Just focused on them. So like when I started this new role, my immediate thing that I wanted to do was have one-on-ones with everybody and say, all right, so what are you doing now? And is that what you want to be doing? And what does that future look like for you? Do you want to stay technical or do you want to start leading people? And either way is fine because there are people that have better suited talents to be technicians. They want to just write code all day and they write so beautifully and they get in the zone. And then
it's like poetry form.
Yeah, it's like poetry form. But then what happens in some organizations? They say, oh, wow, you're so good. We want you to be a manager now. We want you to track timesheets and do end of year appraisals and all this stuff. But is that necessarily what they should be doing? They might not want to do that. And so, but thankfully, I'm working for David Sau. He already is on the completely same page as I am. But that's still one thing that I think leaders should be doing is checking with their folks, making sure that their goals and their job satisfaction is in alignment with the tasks of the business.
Let us know if you are in a leadership role, how are you approaching leading with people? How are you approaching checking in with your people and making sure you're mindful of their career trajectory? Share some of your tips on that in the comments. So I want to show love to my boy, Mr. Yoshida. The bite-sized approach, his idea about applying this to something like an MBA is so good. He's currently doing the same right now in his life. He's been working for 20 plus years, currently a nonprofit COO. He has no MBA, and he's not going to pay $100,000 for one because he's smart. He's bite-sizing his MBA level knowledge right now. Chris, how you feel about that, bro?
I think that's beautiful. That's fantastic. You know, people feel like they have this like self-limiting mindset that society is going to tell them how to get their dreams. But how is society going to tell you exactly how to do something? Make your own path, right? This guy's a COO of his own or of a nonprofit, but he doesn't have an MBA. But a lot of times you're like, oh, if you want to be our COO of anything, you got to have your MBA, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful when people take non-traditional paths to success.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. For me, I actually got into tech just by curiosity, just by learning, being self-taught. There's nothing wrong with the non-traditional path. And, I love what you're saying, Chris, that society can't tell you how to conquer or achieve your dreams.
Yep.
I feel as if the quicker we start realizing that linear paths aren't necessarily the way to success, the better. So shout out to Mr. Yoshida, who's taking control of his career by bite-sizing his own MBA. Ruthie's saying 100% she is feeling everything that we're dishing out as well. And she's also saying that she learns better in chunks by making it snackable. And I love that everyone is saying this because that's exactly what we're doing with Guide. We're helping people learn through bite-sized content. So definitely make sure you check out guideapp.co if you're interested in being a part of our early beta. We are going to be actually launching next week. So definitely check out guideapp.co. Yeah, we're coming. So with that said, Chris, I want to ask you, man, who has been someone in your life, a leader that's left a pivotal mark on you, brother?
Oh, there's so many people. There's so many people, but I'd have to go back to my first job out of the Marine Corps. His name is Daniel K. We call him Dano. And he was the first true leader that took me under his wing. And he was not easy on me whatsoever. He wasn't like, oh, it's okay. He demanded success, mission accomplishment, and that is it. But he did provide training and learning and things like that. One of the most powerful moments I think I've had with him was I came to his office and I sat down and I was like, hey, what's going on? And he was like, so we're doing all this work here, right? Yeah. But we're thinking about what's going to happen next. Where are we going to go next? And what do you think? What do you think is the most important thing? And I was like, the services we provide. He's like, no, not the services. I was like, maybe the technology we create. Nope, not even close. And I was like, well, then what is it? He says the people. And he broke out a sheet of paper. And what the sheet of paper had was names, a list of names, and across the top were skills. And he called it a sheet of X's. And so he had all those people and what skills they had. And so then he had that in his mind. So he knew if there was a problem out there that needed to be solved, he knew what person could help solve that problem. And so that's something that I've always taken with me. I've always had a people-centric approach to cybersecurity, to leadership. It's all about people and doubling down on those people.
And understanding where can they be best, right? Yep. How do you position them and bring them together to achieve a certain outcome or goal? Man, that's powerful wisdom from Chris. Does anyone have anything similar or anyone similar in your life that has helped you really unlock, your leadership traits similar to Chris? Please let us know in the comments below. Shout out to Monique, who's saying, rightly said, Chris. They've been loving and been vibing with everything that you've been saying. Ruthie is saying, yes, to sweat equity. You have to definitely put in the work to achieve your goals. And thank you, Manik, for the love, man. I appreciate you. We are going to be launching next week. We hope that you sign up for the beta so we can give you early access, man. Chris, where can the people connect with you and learn more about the work that you're doing, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. So the main thing is the podcast, of course. We're at hackervalley.studio. For folks that want to support our podcast, we're at patreon.com/hackervalleystudio. And then, as always, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's my favorite place to be, but also Twitter as well, pretty much on all social media.
Powerful, powerful. So, Chris, man, what is a powerful takeaway that you have for our amazing guy community today, man?
Powerful takeaway. I would say there's a lot that's going on in the world right now, and a lot of it's negative, right? And it's really hard to say, you know, put on a happy face and just kind of continue like everything's all right, because it really isn't.
Yeah.
But I will say is start a microcosm of positivity with the people around you. So reach out to your loved ones, reach out to your friends, tell them you're thinking about them, because it's going to brighten their day. And what happens? It's a chain of effect. Then they're going to be like, you know what? I'm glad Chris reached out to me today. I'm going to reach out to somebody else. And then you're just going to chain out this expansion of positivity, and hopefully it reaches to the other side of the world. But I would say double down on people and double down on hope.
Man, I love this, man. Double down on people and double down on hope. Chris, brother, thank you so much for being on today's Monday episode of Unleashing the Future of Work at Guy Podcast. We definitely need to have you on for a future episode, brother.
Yes, indeed. We got to bring you back on ours too.
I can't wait, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Do it.
With that said, that was the first part of today's Monday episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guy Podcast. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to bring on our next guest, Xavier Renard, who is the COO of Chocolate Chip Media. You're going to love this guy. We're going to talk everything about entertainment and media, as well as learn a little bit about his background. He's worked for some of the greatest companies in the tech arena. So definitely take a break, stay tuned, come back in about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's going to be me and Xavier just chopping it up. With that said, y'all, talk to you all soon. Hold up. And we're back. And I'm about to go live with my boy Xavier Cunningham, who is the head of strategic partnerships for Chocolate Chip Media. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, managing career transitions, how to create your career and hit reset on it, but also a little bit more about Chocolate Chip Media and his background and how he got into tech and the work that he's doing now in the entertainment and media space. With that said, let me go ahead and bring Xavier on to the show. Xavier, what's good, man?
Hey, can you hear me?
Man, I think okay. We can hear you. We can hear you.
I can't hear you. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly, man.
So, hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Hello. I can't hear you. Hold on.
Oh, man.
What we got going on here? Hold on.
So, as Xavier fixes the technical hiccups, if you're tuning in right now, please let me know where you're tuning in from. Post it in the comments. Let's get your thoughts as we wait for Xavier to dial back in. Xavier.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly, man.
All right, we're good. All
right, we're good. We're good. I'm so happy we got that sorted out. How are you doing today, man?
Oh man, so I'm here. I'm here with you. So like Ice Cube said, today is a good day.
Today is a good day. Exactly, man. How are you getting used to remote work, bro?
Man, I don't know. I think when you spend what am I now? 15 years into working one way, I don't know if you quote unquote get used to it.
Yeah.
I think you adapt as much as you can. But fortunately, I have a fantastic wife, so she makes my life a lot easier than what it probably should be. And I think, all in all, I'm actually a pretty easygoing guy. Like
You're not too difficult.
Yeah, no, I really just believe like life is about transitions and seasons.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you're prepared with that kind of mindset, I'm really super optimistic about just about anything. So yeah, man, I roll with the punches.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I would love for you to share with us and the people who are tuning in the guy community a little bit about your background and how long you've been in tech, but also a little bit about the new company that you're a part of and that you recently founded with a few friends, Chocolate Chip Media, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. So a little bit about my background, originally from the South, born and raised, navigated over to, and I actually studied communication and business marketing in undergrad. So I just knew I was going to be like the next brilliant mind to bring forth, the just do it type campaigns and think differently. And a little detour post my first semester of grad school going into fashion marketing. I took a part-time job with Apple, part-time retail sales job, literally just to make money over the summer. And a lot of dominoes fell for me, and that kind of catapulted me into a career in tech, where I spent the last 11 years of my life via sales, via technical adaptations, via product management and quality assurance management. And yeah, literally, I think how that stumbled into a career in media was very serendipitous.
Yeah.
Never leaving my passion for fashion and just what style can do for a person's mental and their how they navigate through life. I met a group of individuals who heard about me and some of the events that I threw, and they were like, "Yo, we really just want to create something with you. We got some cool things cooking and baking." And lo and behold, 5 months later, I was on set creating a television pilot.
No way.
For a story called Bit, which explores the underbelly of Silicon Valley, told through the lens of people of color. We shot that. It took 7 days, 14-hour days on set. An amazing, just marvelous type of experience. The same production company that shot Last Black Man in San Francisco partnered with us to produce this. And from there, we were like, let's just keep this ball rolling. There's a lot of stories that we want to amplify the stories of people with underrepresented voices. And we thought we were set up in a very perfect space to do so, being in Silicon Valley, where there are so few people of color navigating the tech space. But how change can absolutely really happen is when that representation is visually seen. And because media has such an impact, I mean, still to this day, right? Will Smith can drop anything on his social channels and it's within seconds viral around the world, right? And so we felt, it's great to have, tech camps and we can go into schools. But if I can drop one television show or movie, a child might can see that and want to become, the next great technical mind long before me running around 20 schools trying to teach them how to code can have the same impact. So
that's powerful. So my boy Monique says, is it possible for you to raise your volume and speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
Just so he can hear you better.
Let me see. I'm trying. This is platform is new. Tim is always bringing in the funk with like new platforms.
I switched it up on him last minute. He thought we were going to do Zoom.
Yeah, very, very last minute. So blame it on him. But I will do my best to project.
Appreciate you, brother. So I love, because you had an opportunity to work with some of the greatest companies, from Apple to LinkedIn, and then you're transitioning to entertainment and media, man. Why do you think representation is so important in media?
Man, I think, again, it's as cliche as it sounds, right? I think we are still a world very much based on believing or ideating and dreaming about something that we see, right? Dreams often are actually influenced, or there's a catalyst that is external, more often than not what we visually see, right? You can tell somebody, if I was to tell somebody last year, like, I'm hearing some rumors about in November, right? Like by May, nobody's going to be able to go outside and everybody will be wearing masks around the world, right?
I wouldn't believe you.
You wouldn't have believed me, right? Like that concept, and you wouldn't have even gave it the remote possibility.
And then more importantly, that you'll get denied in restaurants because you're not wearing
denied in restaurants, like people are getting drugged. It's a whole thing. You wouldn't have believed it, right? Even no matter, however, if I show you a report of what's happening in another country, right? If I can give you that visual representation of like, hey, this country is currently going through this, and then I tell you, right, there's this possibility that you will believe it, and it will seep into your subconscious that much deeper. And so I think applying that very wide scale of what we're going through in COVID to an individual, I will say, even for me, navigating into costume design, I for my artsy side, I have seen hundreds and hundreds of movies, films, television shows, but until Ruth Carter actually won the Oscar for Best Costume Design in Black Panther, I hadn't conceptualized, I could actually be someone who is creating those same types of artful representations on screen. I think, low-hanging fruit example would be Obama. I mean, there was a rise of young Black men and women in their interest in econ and in politics and in government post Obama's presidencies. And I think it goes directly to representation is mostly about what you believe is not possible, but what's even probable. So even if you possibly have ever thought in your life, I could be president, once you see someone like you, and that goes for any group, right? Then you believe it's probable, and it's something that you can go full force for.
No, that's so powerful, man. And I think I've realized that too in building Guide, that media is such a powerful way to communicate to the world the quality that we want to see in the world, right? I think that what's going on in the world right now is there's so much toxicity, and you see in a lot of media platform, and we have to face it. But with education and quality education, and if you can scale that through a media platform, that's changing the narrative on one, accessibility and the affordability of education, man. So I agree with you 100%, man. Do you think now that we're kind of reaching a pivot point for better representation in the media landscape, as you mentioned, with people such as Ruth Carter winning, right, best nomination for costume design?
Yeah, I think we're at an inflection point for sure. I think time will tell if it was a true pivot.
Mm-hmm.
I think time will show whether or not, fads happen not just in fashion.
Yeah.
Right? Fads happen all across the board. And I think we are fighting the narrative around one today as it relates to who is or who is not in support of being anti-racist, right? And
Yeah.
who is against even the concept, accepting the concept of systemic racism. And some people doubt that the honesty or the genuosity of people who are now like, yeah, let's get in this fight. So I think time will tell, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're, like I said, an inflection point where we just had Ava DuVernay, writer and director for Selma and some other amazing projects, When They See Us, and Whoopi Goldberg were just added to the Oscar Academy, right? The Academy awards for the Oscars. They're now on that board and on that council. Could that have been part of what's currently happening in the world? Maybe they had it going on prior, and there were already steps in motion prior, but it seems very timely that it coincides with what's happening. So all that to say, I think we are at an inflection point. I'll be excited to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it shouldn't take long to see if we're really making a true pivot. But definitely, I will say it is cracking and hot to have. I'll just say this: a lot of my friends in the media space, after Crazy Rich Asians was released, and it has such box office success. Everyone, all writers, directors, people in smaller media companies were being asked, "Do you have a script with Asians in it?" Right? Like, and other friends who right now, after everything that's been going on the last month, Black writers, Black showrunners who've been submitted scripts from non-persons of color about Black stories.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why don't you see? I have a story, So I think definitely people see an opportunity there, and I think the interesting part is I don't think you ever needed with the largeness and variety and the vastness of the Asian community at large around the world. I don't think you needed to see Crazy Rich Asian succeed to understand that movie would have been successful. You didn't need to see the right regardless.
Yeah.
But I think there was a laziness around wanting to give the same credit and wanting to give the same legwork to produce whatever numbers you want to justify producing stories from a multi-ethnic lens. So I think 2020 to 2025 we'll definitely see if we made a pivot or if we were just having a spike in our stock.
I love it, man. So I want to ask you, man, because you're all around creative. As you mentioned, you've shifted from working in tech to working with Apple and their retail to now being a part of something super amazing, Chocolate Chip Media, man. What is your creative process like as someone that works in the creative space, man?
Yeah, and do you mean me individually or us as a company?
You individually and Chocolate Chip Media as a company.
Yeah, man, thank you. Individually, I think I'm really moved. Like my creative process is something. It has ebbs and flows. It's something that's again, I believe in seasons. So it's something that I'm really fluid with, if you will. But the first thing it starts with is like why. Whatever I'm feeling and I'm thinking, I'm really someone who's like measure 5 times and then cut once. So whatever I'm feeling and thinking, why am I feeling that way? What is the impact that it personally is having on me? And then more importantly, do I think it will have an impact on someone else? Right? I don't need to necessarily measure it like, will this be cool for 10,000 people? If I do this one thing, will 1 million people like it? I don't necessarily try to quantify it per se, but more so qualify whether or not it matters. There's a story as it relates to the African diaspora, for example. I think it matters that people, not only in the United States, but in the globe, really start to understand that the transatlantic slave trade was not the start or kickoff for Black history or the African diaspora. And more importantly, even if we are going to go with that lens, that the variety of these stories and the collective impact is global, right? There's a gentleman by the name of Gaspar Yang, who was a revolutionary in Mexico. Many people don't even know there's Black people in Mexico, for example. and that story inspires me. Stuff like that, I really try to take points from around the world. That story inspires me. This is a former prince from what is now known as Sierra Leone. And this man held up a province in Mexico for a 90-day stance against the Spanish, to the point to where they were like, yo, you can just have this land.
Wow.
And the only reason they were coming after him, not because they actually cared, but because on the royal route from Veracruz in the south up to Mexico City, in this province, anybody coming on that route, they were getting you. They were stealing back their money. They were getting anything if you were coming down that route. So the Spanish were like, we got to go find these people. But he held it up so much. He's known as a local hero in Mexico. They renamed the province Yang after him. And I think that's a powerful story of strength, of perseverance. So stuff like that, really stories that are very human, really inspire me. And then that shapes the process of where I begin creatively. It's really about what is the human connection to anything that I do. And then from there, it can be very sporadic, to be honest, like how I get from A to Z. I think like a product manager, as it really relates to rolling out, like, just to be honest, right? So I'll do a Gantt chart. I'll set my milestone, like legit, like I'll run it, like whether it's agile or waterfall, like that's how I tactically do my creative process. But as it relates to like getting something from inception to deployment, I'll talk to a lot of the techies who are watching, where it's really about what do I want to tell creatively, and that's both on the screen and in fashion. When I was in merchandising, when I was in styling, when I create an event, it's about like, hey, what matters right now to people? What inspires me? And then can I take that and amplify that story? And that's really same thing with Chocolate Chip Media. You know, we really look at what story matters to us, and that or inspires us, and that we think will matter to people. And then how can we amplify that story by various mediums?
Yeah, man, and I think in a landscape now where everyone's attention is so short and scarce, you know, stories like that are human and really, I guess, tug at the heartstrings matter more than ever.
Agreed.
You know, I wanna ask you, man, who have been some of the people that have really influenced you as a creative leader?
Man, as a creative leader, you know, I'm actually very fortunate. I live in the Bay Area, specifically Oakland, California. And I'm actually really inspired by my local community. Like, I know it's all like get in here and people be like, oh, like give me a big name, and then you try to go follow that name. But honestly, no, I'm really inspired. There's just such a depth of community, especially the transplants. I'm not originally from Oakland, but once you come here, people are just really looking to grow and develop and nurture one another in a unique way that I didn't see in New York, that I didn't see in Boston, didn't even see in DC.
Wow.
Right? And so there's a collective that I just joined called Hella Creative, of some of literally the brightest people I've ever been around. There's individuals who are in tech or former techies. We got graphic designers, 3D artists, photographers, video, whatever, you name it. And we actually created an initiative for Juneteenth to where companies would publicly recognize this and adopt this as an official holiday, right? and to where it would be celebrated just like 4th of July, no work, etc., and to push forth action, right? Not just demonstrative gestures, but like actual action for celebrating this. And I think as of an hour ago, there were 695 companies that started Twitter's. Jack Dorsey was the first to join on, like big public name, and then from there it was just a domino. And so that was a group that literally within a week and a half put together a mission to say, hey, more people, this holiday is coming up, we need to capture this energy, let's go after making sure that companies do the right thing by their employees. And again, not just the employees of color. Like, this is a holiday that should be a U.S. holiday for all people to really celebrate freedom. So that group inspires me. There's a gentleman, Adrian Walker, who is literally one of the most passionate, amazing photographers I've ever seen. We are actually going to some breaking news. We're going to adopt one of his photo series called We Matter, which is focused on the subculture of do-rags.
That's so cool.
Like, he shot this beautiful photo series, which is now hanging in the Smithsonian, right? So this gentleman from St. Louis, Missouri, creative genius, who would have never thought like do-rags, a concept around honoring do-rags, would be hanging in the Smithsonian. And we're going to create an adaptation of that for a documentary. And, he inspired me. Joshua Kissy, who created which is a platform that, anytime you buy a picture frame, it's usually the same cookie cutter individuals who are in those picture frames. And they said, no, we're going to be able to create a platform that can provide true variety in the ethnic depths of the global scale. And so if you need, stills, we got you, right? You need stock photos. And so, people like Joshua Kissy, like, they inspire me. And that, and every woman of color that I run into literally is inspired me. There's a production company called Break Tide here. 3 women all worked in higher, the biggest tech companies you can name, and they left those tech companies to start a smaller production company. 3 women to tell stories around literally the continual underrepresented voice of women, and particularly women of color in any way. And so Break Tide, like, that's a group of women that I would ask anyone listening to check out. And they inspire me. So I say my community more than anything inspires me.
Man, I love that you didn't give a big name. You just said, hey, my community, my local community in Oakland, and I think a lot of people struggle with that, to find community, especially when they're making career transitions. And one of the things you and I have talked about is that COVID has given people an opportunity to reset on their career and really kind of recalibrate and say, okay, where do I want to go to next? Do you have any recommendations on how people can reset, but also, in addition to resetting, find their community in the process?
Yeah. I think the beauty of COVID right now is there's a difference from doing nothing versus being still and really listening to yourself and kind of honing in on what you want in life. So something that I love right now during the COVID time is that it is provided, I think, an example of like working not quite in a vacuum, but I think the current Black Lives Matter movement, for example, is amplified so much because everybody's focused. The distractions that we would normally have aren't there. And so I think that has allowed the beauty of what that movement is to take off in new heights for something that has started, over 5 years ago. Right. And I think if you apply that same kind of concept to your life, you'll realize that we are often seeking those distractions to fill a hole for something that we've been avoiding. And so I think right now during COVID is a prime opportunity to really say, what have I been avoiding? And really listen to yourself, right? If you're spiritual or you're religious, this is a fantastic time to really like focus in and hone on like, what do I believe that higher power has for me? And if you're not spiritual or you're not religious, what is it that you feel at any point in time that you wanted for your life that you didn't have the time to do? Because right now you have the time. So I think the reset is one of those that, even though it was forced on you and it's uncomfortable, it's one that was probably necessary, I would say, for every individual in the world. I don't know anyone that couldn't use this time to say, am I being the best parent that I can be? Am I being the best sibling that I can be? If I love my corporate job, am I on the trajectory that I want it to be on? And if not, what can I be looking at? What can I be researching? And if I don't love my corporate job, what pivot can I be making and trying? Because I think right now, if you were to quote unquote fail at that thing, if you ever wanted like an scapegoat, COVID is the perfect scapegoat. Well, during a time, if you ever wanted a buffer on trying something new, whether it was, especially digitally, like the cool thing here is that if you can make it happen and pop digitally, more like when people really get that chance to get out in person and like we just hosted, me and a group called Toasted Life and the Hella Creative team hosted a online virtual experience. It's kind of hard to describe it, but we had graphic artists drawing like overhead shots and literally live walking through the process. We had on like video concerts, we had panels. Wow. And over 350 people had registered for that. And again, we're talking about within 72 hours that this was put out. Imagine trying to bring something like that together in real life. So if you can make it successful digitally, and just try things. I think right now is in tech, they say go fast and like break it. Like just try to break something, right? Right now, do that for your life. I think this reset has provided you the opportunity to just break things and try whatever and do it for your life.
Man, that's powerful, man. That's powerful, man. Xavier, brother, let me ask you, where can the people connect with you to follow and learn more about the work that you're doing with Chocolate Chip?
LinkedIn. I mean, you can definitely connect with me, Xavier Renard Cunningham via LinkedIn, chocolatechipmedia.com. You can see some of the projects and I guess the roadmap that we have coming up. There's a lot of stuff, to stay tuned on. Some things we can't go into in depth with because we're in conversation with a number of distributors for those projects. So we got to hold that close to the chest. We have 2 vlog series, one called, it's unfortunately timely for the name, but one called Don't Get Fired.
Don't get fired, please.
Yeah, it's I think for anyone who is going through a tough moment right now, it will help them navigate a space, and you can learn more about that. We got like I said, the documentary coming out. We got 2 short films that we hope to shoot next year. So I would say, follow me there on social media, at Xavier.Renard on any social media at Xavier.Renard. Please shoot me a message. Stay close, stay in touch.
Get connected, y'all. Xavier, man, appreciate you, Mr. Cunningham, for being on the show.
Man.
We definitely got to have you on for a future episode post COVID-19. We're kind of post COVID-19, but way beyond COVID-19. Hopefully, sometime later this summer when things are a little bit more sunnier in Oakland and the rest of the world.
No, please do, man. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody coming in initially, but I appreciate Tim. I love what you were doing with the guide.
Thank you, man.
I've been a big fan of yours. I think another way people can continue to reset is just seek out platforms like this, seek out knowledge from spaces like this, really be intentional, right, about trying whatever it is that you think. You don't have to be perfect. Sometimes I leave everyone with this. Sometimes I think we over-index on, well, I can't do that because it doesn't look like what somebody else is doing. And it's not perfectly, well-crafted idea. And so we don't even explore the idea because it's not perfect, right? It doesn't look like what we think someone else does. And I think what you're doing with the guide and all of the many ventures that you started, what I love most is that you go after it and then you see what comes of it, right? And that's a winning formula. So I believe anyone, if you really want to win during this reset of COVID, just go after it. It will not even be remotely close to perfect, but just try it. It'll be uncomfortable, but that's where growth happens.
Man, bro, you need to be a pastor. Oh, man, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, bro.
With that said, thank you so much for tuning in to another Monday episode of Unleashing the Future of Work Live, a guide podcast. If you're really excited about our beta as much as we're excited about our beta, please check us out at guideapp.co to be an early registrant for our beta program. We're going to be launching in a week. This week, we're working incredibly hard to make sure that the product is in a stable state. And we're going to be launching the week after to a select few to really start building our platform and our movement. So definitely check out guideapp.co and please sign up for our early beta program. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved today's live episode, definitely share it with your friends, your community, your teammates at work, wherever. Share it on LinkedIn. Tag me if you have any questions or if you have any comments. And definitely make sure you follow Xavier and also Chris, who are on today's episode. And if you're interested in being a future guest or know someone that would be a great future guest, check out UTFOW.com and sign up to be a guest or a sponsor. With that said, talk to you all soon, and thank you so much. And I'm wishing you peace, love, and as always, abundance. All right, y'all.